So I've come to realize that I really enjoy gacha games. And no, it's not just for the voluptuous women or the gambling system itself. I may enjoy them for different reasons than most, but I'm also kind of curious to see if anyone kind of shares my sentiment. But that being said, it also does have its drawbacks, and I'll go ahead and give my critique and maybe things that could be tweaked in order to make it a bit more fun. But the first and biggest reason I think that I enjoy these types of games is how it limits your progression in certain ways. Because the biggest drawback I have about games that I enjoy is that I tend to overplay them and do too much in such a small amount of time that I'm really left with nothing to do or to enjoy the game. Especially once you've dropped like 100 plus hours into a game you enjoy, the content you could actually play and enjoy lessens over time. And you might say, oh yeah, it's like that in all games, even gacha games. This is true. But when you think about a game that's released and it's just the game, where you buy it, they might have some DLC content. The content you have is what you get, right? So if you do really, really well and grind for what you need to and complete all the content, there's really no purpose in playing the game further, and there really is nothing else to do with the content that's been released. But with gacha games, the second they realize a certain percentage of players is above a certain threshold, they could always release more content, or a lot of the quote-unquote endgame content is catered to just push your limits and just see what you can get away with. So what you can achieve today typically won't be your ceiling, but what you achieve tomorrow can be even more, right? So I enjoy games to where you can grind out what you need to day by day, not overgrind, just enough to kind of hit a certain threshold to get you to that next level, and you can log in the next day and improve from where you're at. But that being said, you shouldn't forcibly halt the progression. Like, I've heard stories that some gacha games will limit how much of the story you can play by day, which I think is absolutely absurd. You should be able to play through the story at your own pace no matter what. But if the only thing limiting your progression is just where you're at in the game in terms of stats and equipment, I think that's fine. But if you're able to achieve and beat that next level, you should be able to. Or over limiting your energy or whatever source you use to do certain battles every day. As long as within a certain limit, that's completely fine, right? Especially if you think in terms of how much time you have day by day, right? Once you become an adult, then you realize you have limited time per day. Knowing what you can achieve within that certain amount of time before going to another hobby or a job or anything else you have going on, it becomes a lot more doable and the progression can be a lot more fun. Like, y'all can call it edging progression, but I also call it edging progression. That and how my psychology works in my brain is if I play something too much, I enjoy it less and less. So knowing I have a limited time on the game to achieve what I need to, and I enjoy it quite a bit, I must say. It allows me to have a lot more longevity in terms of how much I enjoy it. And the second reason is growing with the game. Like, knowing you're progressing, and as you're progressing, they release more and more content, I think makes the content in its full package a lot more appealing. Like, for an example, I used to play an online Pokemon game called PWO. It was like the OG, before online Pokemon really popped off, but it was almost like an MMO style, right? You had your own in-game economy set up with the players, what costed what and everything like that. But it was cool because it started as like OG mechanics for Pokemon, right? But then it slowly progressed and they kept implementing and getting people to work on the game. So it was cool to be improving with the game itself. It really gives you a sense of how much you progress, not only with what you're provided, but taking that knowledge that you've gained and then implementing it as the game goes on. I think that's always super fun. And it's always fun to flex on the newer players as well, right? Let's be honest. For the third, I'll go ahead and talk about the gacha systems. So I think in gacha games, you shouldn't be prioritizing the gacha system. I think you should just be enjoying the content as is, and the gacha system could just be a fun afterthought, right? So if you're playing the game and you hit a wall, you can be like, I wonder what I can do to get stronger. And then you're looking around and you're like, oh wait, that's right, I forgot I could do some pulls on equipment or characters. And when a cool new character comes out, it's always fun to be able to enjoy them, because that just adds on to the content as the game progresses and comes out. Like, I could be out of things to do in terms of progression, and then I'm like, oh, what can I do? Oh wait, that's right, I can go ahead and do some pulls. and then I pull the new character that released, and then that means I can go ahead and start improve or build up the new character I just pulled, right? Because I believe if a game says free to play, it should be for the most part free to play, right? If you feel that you have to drop in money just to keep up with the content, that's where I think it goes downhill. That's why I think for most games, they should definitely improve the rate up at which you get characters. Because if it's that low of odds, and then not including you're not guaranteed to get what you need or what you don't have yet, it's kind of crazy to think that you can play a game for years and not have all the characters that are released in the game, right? It's just like, how can you play a game for years and not have all the content it has to offer? So I think they should definitely help out the reward system and provide more to help you invest in the gacha system as you invest into the base game. As you progress through the main game, you should also be making progression in the gacha system and have a bit more guarantee that you'll have the content that they release. And because the whole reason for a gacha system is for it to be a gacha game, but it should be there as an additive on top of the base game. Because, every company has to make its money for sure. So I'm not saying never drop money into a game, but if you enjoy the game, you're more likely to want to drop money into it anyways, right? So if I really enjoy a game, even if it's free to play, I'll be like, well, I spent a few hundred hours playing this game, I think I could drop $20 here or there, just to help out the developers and make them want to improve the game and keep it fresh for everyone. I think that's the least I can do. And if people only play games for their quote-unquote gooner elements, and they want to drop a house payment worth of money just to get big booby waifus, then let them do it. They're dumb. And they're going to destroy their own life regardless, right? Because they're obviously not good at making good decisions. But if the game itself happens to be good, hey, they're helping fund your game essentially. So that's always fun to think about. So if people want to wail, let them wail. And if I had to give it a fourth reason, I'd say it's the direction of the game as well as the community itself. So let's say if they're making a quote-unquote gooner game or a game, that's pushing the threshold on its artwork or anything like that, which, don't get me wrong, doesn't make the game, but let's face it, a lot of people and society are hard-geared to not want to give our attention to things. And the only thing that gets our attention is rather rage bait or something with sexual themes, right? So it's a good way to at least get people's attention to look at the game, and then from there they can decide if they want to stay because they actually like the content that the game has to give us. Right? So if they're releasing content and they have the community review it, the community will let them know what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. So if you buy a full game, the concept for the game is already there, right? You can't just change direction for it midway, and if they do, you can tell as you're playing the game and it doesn't feel sincere and it makes you not want to play it. But gacha games don't seem tied to the rules of full game releases. So if we enjoy something, we let them know and they say, okay, cool, we're going to keep doing that then. And they add upon that idea. Or if something doesn't work, they'll be like, all right, well, go ahead and scratch that. Well, how do you feel about this? So once again, it's kind of coming together and deciding how the game should progress together. Because changing the direction of a game based on the community feedback could be a good thing. Like you always hear the stereotypical snowbreak route, right? It's like the game itself was okay, but then they kind of ask themselves, all right, what can we do to really push it forward and, start making money again and progress the game the way we want to? Oh, well, we'll just throw in these elements, and people fucking ate it up. So if it goes down a certain route, in this particular example, the Gooner route, well, look at it now. The game is still fucking going, right? And people are still playing it. People are still saying good things about it, so it must be a half-decent game, right? But once again, because it's a live service game and a gacha game, it can choose to take that route and then build upon the game to keep it going in a more positive way for everyone, right? And once again, you can't do that in full release games. If they get halfway through the game and they realize it sucks, well, the rest of the game is probably going to suck too, and there's nothing they can really do about it. And that could just be on them, it could just be you, maybe it's just not your type of game like you thought it was, nothing wrong with that. But having that freedom to go down a route in a game that you want to go down, and you don't have to worry about higher-ups or investors being in the kitchen with you telling you how to cook, I think is a really good way to go. It's nice to have freedom as a developer to do what you want to do with your game in order to make sure it's successful. But yeah, those are just a few quick reasons on why I like gacha games. I seem to prefer gacha games as well as quick run roguelike games where you can just make a quick build and then just do a 20-minute run or something and just go beast mode. Because I enjoy making builds and enjoying the mechanics of a game, so games like Gacha Games and little run games I find are pretty good uses of my time. It stimulates my brain, and I don't have to overinvest my attention or time if I don't want to, right? I could always plan accordingly and then go on with my life as normal. But yeah, if y'all like any of these reasons I listed, let me know. It's always nice to have some feedback. I'm an old fogey, and maybe I'm kind of not the regular audience that full games are made for nowadays. I do still enjoy full release games. I don't play them as much as I used to, but I still enjoy them. So even though I'm gassing up Gacha Games, don't think I'm gassing down all the other games, right? If it's a good game, it's a good game. I'll play it and I'll always give it a shot. But I definitely am a little more tentative, I guess you can say, on when I play a new game if it's a full release game. I like kind of watching some playthroughs and seeing if it's something I want to invest my time into. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed and y'all have a good one.
Yeesh, this swimsuit is pretty skimpy. Hey,